Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Flagship Show on what is probably one of the most anticipated days in the fantasy world. Scott Fishbowl started drafting today. And yesterday, I guess, was the second most anticipated, with the JTT Cup starting yesterday, right? Murf, how are you? How are things? How are you looking?
Oh, mate. I mean, I'll be honest. It's fantasy Christmas, right? I say this every year. It's fantasy football Christmas Day today. This is like the official start of the redraft season. It's Scott Fishbowl Day. And then on top of that, you've got, you said JTT Cup. You've got all these charity leagues that are about to go, and like this is the part where everyone starts to engage in fantasy football. So it is absolutely amazing, and we've got so many more amazing things coming up as well. And so it's just great. Like I am slightly I'm slightly hungover today.
Still.
Well, the thing is, as I reckon yesterday I was probably still a bit drunk, even though I didn't drink yesterday. So I was at a stag do. I didn't know if I was going to make the stag do. So Milo was quite unwell the last tail end of last week. And so I was touch and go if I was even going to go. And then he sort of cleared up and got better just in time for me to depart for 3 days. And it was great. Best weather for it and everything. So, it was awesome. And I'm just looking forward to tonight's show. I think we're going to do something that we've done the last few years on this show, which is to break down some ADP as we're going into redraft now. People's mindsets have changed. ADP's changing a lot. We're going to see who's rising, who's falling. Just get a sense of where the board is now. It's not going to help people in the Scott Fishbowl drafts, but you got to pick before me, even though we're both 106s. Who did you take in your Scott Fishbowl draft so far? What's your team looking like?
I went out of the box and went with Tom Brady.
Ooh, yeah.
So I lost. Who went? Let me have a quick shimmy here. The usual suspects, I guess: Alan Herbert, Jonathan Taylor, Patrick Mahomes. I guess I had a hope for Lamar Jackson to sit there at 6. Wasn't there. A lot of talking in our Pick 6 chat was about Joe Burrow. I don't know. I just wanted to do something a little different. I think Brady's was potentially QB3 with this scoring format on last year's performance. Nothing's changed. The situation's okay. So, I picked up Brady. Also with a look at maybe the third, fourth, I can add a Leonard Fournette or a Mike Evans with him, and then potentially later on even a Godwin or a Gage. So, I went that way. I'd prefer Brady with his consistency over a Dak or a Jalen Hurts or someone like that at that spot. So, that was me. It was quite controversial at the time. There was a bit of a stir in the chat, but hey, as the one and only Scott Fishbowl, we only get one go at a year, and we're lucky to have that one go. So I am not going to sit here and regret anybody I pick.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to do in this format. Sorry, I'm just getting on word out there this evening, and there's a few new listeners tuning in, so I'm just making sure they can find us. So the giveaway that we're going to talk about in just a second. Yeah. But in terms of the a few people saying good evening, which is nice. Good evening, gents. In terms of the Scott Fishbowl, so I was a bit contrarian and went Jonathan Taylor at the 106. I just feel like you can't really pass up a talent there. The first 5 picks were all QBs. I was in a tough decision. I almost went Lamar Jackson. So for me, Lamar Jackson's probably the QB1 in this format if he's healthy and fit.
Yep.
So it was tough to pass him. I didn't know how the rest of the room was going to be quarterbacks. There's quite a few analysts in my draft room. It turns out they really all love quarterbacks. 15 went off the board in the top 20 picks. So I on the way back, I took Trey Lance at QB 14 at 207. Okay. So I'm happy with that. I think because the tier below was really scary. So like for me, the choice was Lance or Stafford, I play the win the tournament at the end of the day.
Play the upside. Yep.
100% play the upside. I think you and I are going to put. I mean, for me, when I play the Scottish Bowl, I play to go all out to win.
It's first or last, right?
It's first or playoffs, or it's well, first of all, the goal is always to make the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I also.
But this year's changed. 50% of the field will make the playoffs.
Exactly that. So I think
you have a fit, healthy lineup, you're probably in.
Got a good chance of getting in. So I think for me, I want to try and play upside. So for me, I know what Stafford is. I know what he's going to do. I think Lance is a far more interesting pick, who I think has a potential to be a top 3, top 4 quarterback if it all broke right with the rushing, especially with the rushing first downs. And he could also flop and be the QB 15, which I'm getting him at 14. So really, I'm getting him probably near his absolute worst. So I don't mind that. And we'll see what happens with round 3 when that pops around. Might even be making that pick on there. We'll see how
I'm still waiting on the 2. We've just got through 112 and 2-1. Well, nice Kelsey and Jefferson on the turn, which I quite like.
Yeah, it's a nice turn. But I think it's
having the 3-1 and the reversal means they pick up QB then. So, but yeah, it's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly that. It is definitely interesting.
I mean, we've mocked these for 2-3 weeks, and you look at it and you have a plan and you go, right, okay, this works, that don't work, this works, and go into it, and you can chuck all of that mock draft, ADP data, all the things you've done, all the plans you had straight out the window. Because when it comes down to the real event, it gives you an idea. But so many people are trying. You mock drafting with 11 other people and yourself. All 12 of you are trying something different. All 12 of you are trying to see if you can pull something off. And ultimately, you will or you won't. You get to the real thing, and it just changes a little bit. So, for me, it's fun to do the mocks and get to meet different people again and talk to different people. But it almost isn't comparable. It almost is a standalone draft, totally isolated.
100%. And actually, I need to clarify that for some people that are watching this, because some people don't know what the Scottish Bowl are. And there's a few people who are watching this who have bought the playbook, and thanks very much for doing that. And then they're going, you talk about quarterbacks at the top of the board, and it's like in the book you talk about sort of round 5, round 6. Scottish Bowl is a super flex draft, which means you can start 2 quarterbacks, which drives the value all the way up the board. And the Scottish Bowl is a very unique scoring where basically if your QB isn't completing 67% of his passes, he's actually going to lose points just through incompletions. So there's a completion and incompletion scoring. So if you've got inaccurate wild QBs,
and there's also a 6-point QB and a -4 for INTs. It is extreme on either end on QB scoring.
There was a year where I can't remember if it was Jameis Winston or someone else. It must be Jameis Winston, where he put up like a -30 week or something.
It would be the Panthers week in London, probably.
Yeah, probably something like that.
With this, wasn't it?
With this scoring. So, like, at the end of the day, like, QBs aren't always a bang-up starting play in Superflex, depending on who you have. So, that's why QBs have run quickly on this board. That's why in my league, I think 15 of the first 20 picks is excessive. I definitely wasn't anticipating that. I don't regret my pick, even knowing that I probably would have still gone Taylor over Lamar Jackson. But still, I think if I knew I was getting Lance, I definitely would have done it. So if Lance had gone, if Lance had gone and I didn't have Lance there, I would have felt really sick. But I was thinking this morning, I was waking up thinking, I think Rodgers could slide with no weapons there. He'd be attractive in round 2. I was thinking Kyler's on the slide. I thought he might fall into the late first, early second. And then if players start going other ways, you never know. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
Guys like Mac Jones, Davis Mills aren't going to be exceptional fancy players, but as you say, with the completion percentages, they've actually become more viable as a safety floor than someone like a Winston, who will win your weeks and lose your weeks.
Exactly that. And I think that's what's so key with this is, and like with the mocks and everything else, it's kind of like this format, you need a lot of luck to go your way to make it work. And I think that's the beauty of it. And if you get the opportunity to play in the Scottish Bowl satellites, I heard some news today that they're going to host some on Underdog, which would be Slightly disappointing if that is the only place they're going to do the satellites, because that gives the opportunity. Like, I think you've done satellites. I know
I have.
a lot of the 5-yard rush crew have done satellites. I know a lot of people in the UK have played the
I'd be
satellites to get a
surprised if it's all
taste
it
of
is,
the
because it's
format.
not even available in all the states.
No,
let alone
I agree.
overseas.
I would be disappointed, but and I don't think it will be. But I've asked the question to see what's
In
going
a year
on.
where he's ventured out from MFL and incorporated Sleeper and so on for the main event, it seems weird that he'd narrowed the audience down.
Yeah, I agree.
On the
I think
satellites.
there'll be clarity on that in the coming days. So if you're listening to this, talking about this weird scoring format, and it isn't for everybody, but just keep an eye on the satellites. And I'll post as much information as I can on my channel, or sorry, my Twitter handle. You'll do the same, and we'll go from there. So, but speaking of the charity tournament, so we got some exciting news that we're going to talk about tonight, haven't we, Dan?
We have. Guess I'd probably put it a very close second to Scott Fish Bowl at the minute. I think it's going into its third year. It's gathered huge traction online. They hosted an awesome Super Bowl party last February, and that's the Warrior Bowl. Something that's just growing and growing, and I think something up to like 20 different countries with participants and things like that. So fantastic event. Again, unique scoring, unique format, one that's out there to test and take people away from comfort zones and have multiple ways of approaching drafts with a way to win. But they're very, very near full. And the guys over at Warrior Bowl have been incredibly kind to us to give us a couple of spots that we can both give away potentially now and throughout the coming week online. So whether you're listening now live or whether you're going to watch it back, we're not excluding anybody. We're going to give everyone a fair crack at grabbing one if you're not already in.
Absolutely. So great. Greg and Foley over at Warrior Bowl. I got to know them before year one. We've been a proud sponsor of theirs. We co-hosted the draft event with them. We give prizes away every year, and they've become very good friends of mine. And we do anything we can to support. And as you say, it's a phenomenal tournament. It's very close to my heart. I was the runner-up in the inaugural year. I was one half away from winning it
Nice.
in its inaugural year, and finished as the runner-up to a great champion. So it's a bittersweet, but to be in a deep format and to be that close to winning it and being in the mix it's a great thrill. And I've always going to have a great place for it in my heart. But we were big backers of it before it happened, and we have great respect for it for long after. Long for many years. As long as they continue to want to partner with us, we will always partner with them. And they're great guys, and I think they've grown the field to over almost 500 people this year. So it's a huge field, maybe even more. I don't even know what the actual number is.
And that starts drafting next Monday as well, right?
That's it. So they're drafting next Monday. There's 10 spots remaining. They're not doing any more through signups. We have half of those spots. We're going to give away 2 tonight on the show. So for those of you that have tuned in and listening to this, trying to get a spot, whether you've listened to our show before or not, if you haven't listened to us, thank you very much for coming in. It's a pleasure to get to know you, and hopefully we can continue to be part of your routine for weeks and months to come. If you're very familiar and joining on the live stream, this is a great opportunity to join an amazing charity tournament that we've talked about. So what we're going to do, the 2 spots that we're going to give away tonight, we're going to talk about sleeper ADPs. We're going to talk about risers and fallers. And so what the question I'm going to ask you, we're going to give 1 spot away to the first person who can guess who is the largest riser in ADP in the last month.
One
so that's
QB,
in June. There's 2 players that have got the same rise. So if you the first one to get one of these players right, will win a spot.
We're talking 1 QB or 2 QB. Let's just define that.
1 QB. So standard redraft ADP. There are 2 players who have risen a huge amount by over a round in rounds 9 through 12. Okay. So if you give us the first person to give us the name of one of those players, we'll get a spot, and we will announce it when we get to that section of the show, which will be probably in about 30 minutes time. So rounds 9 through 12 in standard 1 QB redraft. And we're also going to give another spot to the person who gets the biggest Actually, no, we're going to, the biggest faller outside of Deshaun Watson and Rob Gronkowski. I'm not going to make it that easy. I want it because that'd be easy. That'd be so easy.
Yep.
Not going to happen. So in rounds 9 through 12, I've got a few guesses in the chat. The guesses you've got are those types of players. So, for example, Barkley, Terry McLaurin, their first 3 or 4 round players. We're talking about rounds 9 through 12. So I'm going to give you a name who's not in contention here. Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Claypool, Kadarius Toney. There's a few names that are in that kind of round that or that range of players that we're talking about. So rounds 9 through 12 in redraft ADP. We will give away one spot for the person who gets either of the biggest risers first, and one for the biggest faller who isn't Gronkowski or Watson, because they are the biggest fallers. In fact, this person's fallen almost as far as those two. And then what happens is if no one gets, say, the faller, then it might be that we'll give that to the second person who gets it right. Whatever, we're going to try and give 2 spots away, and if we get no winners, then we'll do something at the very end of the show. So stay tuned all the way through. So it's an interesting question, to say the least. I'm just going to put the answers through because Dan doesn't even have the answers. So I'm going to just.
Dan had a really busy day today, and he got this giant spreadsheet through of all this ADP data and went, I'll get to that later. And then I hit about 10 past 3, and you'd have thought there was a world war going on the way my phone blew up as SFBs kicked off.
Yeah,
there's about 16 chats and messages and WhatsApp and draft notifications all coming through. So Dan hasn't studied this data in any great detail. No. So
that's okay. Look, we're going to go through it all together, and we're going to learn a little bit about what's going on in the world of redraft. And I think it's really important to try and understand what's going on, because people have got their dynasty brains on. I've seen so many people say to on Twitter or to me that I'm in dynasty mode. And then
snap out of it quickly.
Snap out of it quickly, but
it's not dynasty time now.
No, and it is. Redraft is a completely different game. So, at the end of the day, what we want to do is try and give you some context in terms of what's going on here. So, some people say, bless Danny, I'm too much of a newbie to know these answers. Go on the Sleeper, look at ADP and see who goes in rounds 9. Do a mock draft. In fact, you've got time to do your own mock draft on Sleeper and start seeing who goes in between 9 and 12. You've got half an hour to go through.
Who goes between 9 and 12 and then go, okay, they thought they were later than that, or I thought they was earlier than that.
That's it. Danny, you've bought the Fantasy Football Playbook. I know that. So you can go through rankings and look at who's got that sort of ADP in the top 100. Well, it'll be outside the top 100 players. But you've got half an hour to try and work this out. I can tell you now, those of you that are in the chat, ferociously guessing, and no one's there.
What we've just done? Everyone's going to now open Sleeper and just start working down the list of 12 round picks.
They've still got to go through 48 players and try and guess the ADP. I will say this as well, that the you put in here that you have to think outside the box for the faller. I'm going to give an extra clue.
Stop. Leave it there.
But I'm just saying you got to think outside the box, because it's not. I don't think it's one that'll be well expected. So anyway, we're going to go through. We're going to go through this data now.
Yes.
So looking at this, and half explain this. I've ordered this from. We're looking at data from the 2nd of June on Sleeper and the 30th of June, and. So effectively, we're looking at the whole month of June minus 1 day, right? So I think for me, this is a really good benchmark to see. The problem with early June data is it's got people's dynasty heads on. So you'll see this as we go through. Players looking at say rookies. Do we see rookies go higher than they were going earlier? And do we see rookies falling? And we're going to go through some of that. And we're going to try and work out why. Some of this might be news related. Some of this might be almost like buyer's remorse. on certain players. Some of these might be undervalued players that are correcting to the mean. Some of them don't make any sense at all. And we're going to try and go through all of this. So what I've done here is this is all the data that's pulled through. This looks like a bunch of numbers. Ultimately, what I want to do is focus on these. And we're going to look at mostly one QB, but we will touch on Superflex here. So this list here in rounds 1 through 4, these are the biggest risers in the first 4 rounds of drafts. If you see here, T. Higgins has jumped up half a round in the last month, which I find fascinating. He's now going off the board in the middle of the 3rd round.
He's a wide receiver 2 on his team.
Which is a pass-heavy team, but I just think you're expecting him. You really are drafting him at his absolute ceiling. We both said this earlier that I thought where he was going now at 37, 38 is where he was going, which is sort of start of the 4th. I thought that was a bit rich. I think now you're looking at him and you're thinking, for me, if you're drafting a wide receiver there, he has to finish as a wide receiver 1.
Let's go back last year, because the comparison is you pass heavy team with 2 wide receiver 1s was Tampa with Evans and Godwin, who were both going within picks of each other, right? Yeah. Chase has obviously got a lead here. Is T. Higgins in that bracket of those guys in a redraft?
No,
he's not. He's not going to return Mike Evans' numbers.
Yeah, he's absolutely not. He's absolutely not for me anywhere near those numbers, and I think that's half the point is he's not anywhere near them. And so when you think about this, and actually, Rich at Dynasty Island actually wrote a piece on DLF about him. It was actually really good. That for me, I think T. Higgins is a perennial wide receiver 2. I think he's a good wide receiver 2. Don't get me wrong. I think if T. Higgins is in the 5th round, I'm probably pretty happy to push the button there. But we're talking about the mid-3rd now, and he's rising. So we could go even higher. I think the hype has got so far out of control. Like, for me, I can't see a path to T. Higgins being a wide receiver 1. No. Can't see it.
Other than an injury to Chase.
Other than an injury to Chase.
And you're banking on an injury.
Yeah, exactly. Which, even then, I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure that happens. I think Tyler Boyd.
No, because even Tyler Boyd steps in. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I just don't see a path where I can go comfortably. He's going to comfortably be.
They've also brought in a pass catching tight end in Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, and then when you're looking at players that you can get, just after him, like he's going 4 spots later than Mike Evans. He's going 2 spots later than Keenan Allen. These are the
ones.
This is the players who you're just missing out on. Like I just think it's what Deontay Johnson's going 8 pecks later.
Wide receiver 8 last year.
Exactly
PPR,
that. Yeah. In a PPR league, it doesn't make any sense. Like it just does. That's what I mean. I think the hype's gone. The hype's gone a little bit much. Like even Metcalf's up there who you can get quite a few picks later. DJ Moore. These are all players who you can get significantly later, which I just don't get. So that's one. Justin Herbert's seen a bit of a rise. I think people are really buying into his potential. So he's going from sort of on the 3-4 turn to slightly in on the in round 3, which for me, I'd rather Justin Herbert over Patrick Mahomes, and even at the current cost, I still agree with that. I think I can get it. I'm not sure I will do it, but I do get it. Breece Hall. So it's a funny one, right? Breece Hall is going up quite significantly in redraft, but 1 QB, but in Superflex, he's actually dropped a little bit in value. I think people are just excited to see what he can do.
Earlier, right?
Yeah, and look, his pick number here, we're talking about 45, 42. So you're talking about sort of mid to late 4th. And I think people are thinking he could be a running back 1, and therefore people are quite keen to take a chance at that stage, which I don't mind that. I think you can explain that. James Conner, I think, is criminally undervalued. His price is going up. We're talking about the 3-4 turn.
I was going to look at a couple of backs there, because a couple of backs in that first bit where you talked about dynasty heads changing to redraft head, and 3 of them stuck out. James Conner, Aaron Jones, and Leonard Fournette, all in that top bracket, all on the rise, all rightly on the rise as well.
Yeah.
Because in Dynasty, they are guys you, unless you're in a win now mode, you probably do want to shy away from. In redraft, these are guys that could have really big years. James Conner had a fantastic year last year. The offense they were design plays and design scores and design carries for him. That isn't going to change in that offense, especially with D-Hop being out. So Leonard Fournette, lead back, with zero competition in that backfield whatsoever to trouble him on the workload. Aaron Jones going to get loads of catching work with a lack of receivers. He may share some carry work, I guess, with Dylan, but you'd still expect him to put up reasonable numbers. So, I think we're seeing that change in
Jones
mindset.
is now, and he's now just snuck into the back end of the second round, which I still think is very good value for Aaron Jones here. Now, I'm not really fussed. I'm just going to sort of switch tack. Anything that's kind of one either side, I'm not really that bothered about. It's just a bit of jockeying for position here. So when you're seeing these small numbers, that says, they're pretty flat. These aren't overly important. So like Josh Allen dropping one place, Mark Andrews dropping a place, they're not overly important. There's a couple of real standouts here. The first one's right at the top of the board, and he's the first major player here, which is Dalvin Cook. So a month ago, Dalvin Cook was going at 4, and now he's going at 7.
Okay.
Which is quite, in the first round, to see that much of a shift is huge. There are a lot of people that are cashing out on Dalvin Cook in redraft and are plumping for Eckler, who's jumped ahead of him. They're jumping for Kupp, who's ahead of him, and they've jumped for Derrick Henry, which in all those instances, I completely get, because that's where I have all those 3 players are above Dalvin Cook for me. I just think it's interesting that in a month, he's gone from being the 104 to the 107. And it's very rare you'll see a huge ADP change in a round 1 player. Like, that's probably the biggest round 1 change you're going to see in quite some time. And I think he can fall from there. So he's getting to the point now where Dalvin Cook is almost a value in the first round, which is a mad thing to say.
If he stays fit, stays healthy, which he won't. But if he does,
if you're in the back end of the first round, I think you've got to take a swing.
Yeah.
And I think you're getting into the territory now where he is well worth some consideration. If I just flip this back to the normal ADP, right? In fact, let's take the most recent ADP because that's what we're talking about here. So, I mean, look, he's kind of on par with Najee Harris. I expect people to take Najee Harris over Dalvin Cook. So I think they'll switch positions. So then you're talking about Joe Mixon, and then you've got quite a drop here to the Swift Chubb Kamara tier.
Yeah.
We know Dalvin Cook, if he remains fit, is a league winner. It's just, it is that injury concern. I can 100% understand people fading Dalvin Cook, and I can see that's why I think Najee Harris will jump him in ADP when we probably get a next day to jump. I wouldn't be surprised to see these flip. But I think it's interesting if he holds to around that Mixon value, and if people take Mixon over Cook. I think if you're in the back end of round 1 in drafts, I do think Dalvin Cook is interesting. I do think he's really interesting at the back end of the first round. He's someone that would get my attention there massively. So he's a big faller. Darren Waller's a big faller. Amari Cooper, we can understand, given the Deshaun Watson business. So that makes a lot of sense. Patrick Mahomes is an interesting one in the sense of he's still holding at QB2, but we're at the point now where Justin Herbert is really close in ADP. So in the most recent ADP, they're back-to-back.
Okay. Yeah, really close.
And we're at the point now where, I mean, in my rankings, I have Herbert over Mahomes, and I get it. So it's not a big surprise. I think people are realizing that. Do they think Patrick Mahomes is a league winner? The one that shocks me in all this is Antonio Gibson. I don't know why Antonio Gibson has dropped half a round, because nothing has changed. He's still in the same situation. He's still the lead back. Granted, they're not the best offense in the world.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why he has dropped. He's round about, I think he's RB 18, I think now. It says 16, but that was Well, that was his beginning of June ADP.
Right.
So I think in late, I think he's been jumped by a couple more running backs there. Let's have a look. Yeah, look, he's been jumped by Montgomery, who's jumped him. He's been jumped by Connor, and he's been jumped by Akers. So he's actually jumped. He's actually fallen 3 spots. He's now like RB19, which I think there he's a value. I think he's a value in the 4th round.
Just quickly, Murf, before we carry on, I'm just going to say everybody that's throwing guesses into the chats, thank you. Nobody's right as of yet.
Wow. Yes.
So there's been some good names in there and some surprising ones, but none of them, and they're ups and downs, but none of them are the top guys at their spots. So
someone put Barkey's Goodwin. I don't even think he's got a team, is he, at the moment? He might do. I can't remember.
No.
Are there any other questions? But yeah, I think Antonio Gibson, I think, is a value. Like, I don't understand why he's fallen nearly half a round.
He's going to be an RB2 on a roster, and you're picking him up where?
You're picking him
late.
You're
4th,
early 4th,
and a 1 QB, not a super flex.
No,
super flex you get 2 QBs, 2 running backs, bosh, end of the 4th. Lovely job.
Well, here's the weird thing. So this is where players that play super flex he's remained flat.
Pretty much, yeah.
So he's remained flat in a super flex.
Yeah.
But redraft 1 QB, people have gone, no, they're out. And I find that fascinating that he's changed that much. Yeah, I don't have an answer to it. I really don't. I do think it's interesting. I don't have an answer as to why that is. I mean, the thing I would say in these rounds is very rarely do you get major shifts. So this is why I'm talking about Antonio Gibson. In the first 4 rounds, these ADPs tend to be pretty.
Could it be the McKissick re-signed? Obviously, McKissick was on the way out the door to Buffalo.
Yeah, but I think that was always going to happen, wasn't it? Like,
I think so. Yeah, I don't think that would have had such a big swing. I think that gives him a 2-3 spot swing, not half a round swing, if that.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I don't get that personally. I think you don't get these big swings, and when you do, it's a player like Cooper, which you understand because he's going to be tied to.
Yeah,
he's going to be tied. He's going to be tied to Teddy Bridgewater for most of the season. Dalvin Cook is really interesting why he's fallen so much. Certain players here like AJ Brown, I think the hype of the draft is sort of gone. And there's a bit of realization.
Realization he's now got Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, exactly that. So we've talked about it before on here. Yeah. I think the J.K. Dobbins hate has got to stop. I don't know what is going on with his ADP, but how can people have J.K. Dobbins at the back end of the 4th round?
Just coming back off injury, I guess.
Back end of the 4th round. That's madness to me that he's there. Madness.
Yeah. Pitts is an interesting one. Down a couple in 1 QB and up a couple in Superflex.
Yeah, again, it shows you the different audiences of players, right? So the thing I like about the redraft, and the reason I put the 2 in here, right, we'll pull the redraft numbers up, is I redraft players typically, and I don't want to cause any offense to this, are a little bit more mature and serious because they're playing a more complicated format. So I do find their ADP interesting, like Aaron Jones taking that huge a jump. Again, all the noise is coming out is that people have been wrongly undervaluing him all summer. James Conner, the same. These players have been criminally undervalued all summer long, and now people have caught up in redraft. And I think it's really interesting to start seeing what I call the cream rising to the crop. All these players we've talked about, Dan, for weeks, being criminally undervalued. Leonard Fournette, CD Lamb.
So the other one I'm seeing in a minute, and I don't know where he is, so I haven't looked at the data, is Damian Harris. In a very similar situation with James Conner.
He's in rounds 5 to 8, so we're going to get
further down. Yeah, so I'm just going to see if he's got a parallel sort of increase. Because he should have.
He should do. But this is where things are really interesting. Like, people are fading Cam Akers a lot more in Superflex than they are in 1 QB. And again, I think these players have realized that actually the body of work on Cam Akers isn't all that much. I find it really interesting that they have faded Austin Eckler in Superflex, but he's gaining in redraft. I find that fascinating. Maybe that's the the fear of QBs, and maybe if I filter just by QB, we can see if there's any correlation to that. So let's see. There's only 4 QBs going. If I looked at the Superflex data, actually, it's because it's not quite complete. If I cheat here and just go into here, see. Let's see. QB5, Burrow flat. Prescott's taken a dive in Superflex. No, it's not QBs. That's strange. See, that's strange. Strange that he's taken a bit of a dive there. So this is why this data is really fascinating. I think it just gives you a bit of context as to player movement and going, okay, so why are people fading Cam Akers? That's going to give me something to think about in my next draft. I know why. I've got a strong opinion on that. But George Kittle the same. But Austin Eckler, I'm going to walk away from this conversation and go, I need to probably have a think on. On Austin Eckler and have a look. AJ Brown, 100% there. Najee Harris, I think, is interesting that he's fallen a little bit as well. So if I look at the risers at running back,
Eckler went first round in my SFB, just to let you know.
Yeah,
at pick 9.
So if we look at the Superflex data here, it's Allen, Taylor, Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, take a pick.
Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's going at the back end of the first in Superflex.
I said Dalvin Cook's a second-round pick.
Fascinating, isn't
it? Yeah,
it's weird.
It's last year. Was it the year before last? It was CMC, Henry, and Cook. Bosh, 1, 2, 3, and then followed by Barkley and Zeke. I think it was last year. Barkley and Zeke. That was his top 5.
I'm just checking if there's anyone else in there that's skewing. Yeah, see, look, Burrow. It's because you got Burrow and Kyler Murray in there, and then Dak Prescott and Russell Wilson. So that's what's kind of pushing some of those players down. But still, it shows that people are really sort of panicking and taking QBs as early as they can in the Superflex to the point where they're almost being overvalued. So I think there's some steals there. So the key takeaways there for me is people are too high on Higgins, and people need to probably watch that a little bit. And just check what you're getting there, because I don't see where he is at cost and think that's worthwhile. We'll get to the point where Justin Herbert's probably going to go before Patrick Mahomes. They're back to back, not too long, I think. Before
I can understand that.
I can 100% understand it. I think if you are a Justin Herbert fan, you're going to have to get in your head that you're taking him in round 3, which for some people that's going to be too much cost. It is for me, I'll be honest. So if you had grand designs of getting Herbert in the 4th or 5th, I think you're probably going to need to start rolling it out. People are gambling on Breece Hall. People have wised up on James Conner and Leonard Fournette. So these players are going well above. People are buying CeeDee Lamb. And people are fading Dalvin Cook and fading Antonio Gibson and fading Patrick Mahomes. To the point where I think all those players... Well, I don't think Mahomes is a value, but I do think Gibson and Cook, for me, are good values now. So, do you have any other thoughts based on what we've just talked about?
No, I think injuries do come into it. How people are factoring back. Debo's on the drop in both, and I think that's a lot of their expectation as to can he perform. And also the QB uncertainty there. Javonte Williams is on the fall in both. That's because he isn't a lead back, and I keep mentioning this every week. Keep him going down. He's still probably about half a round too far, so keep him going. It's fine. No, it's just fascinating. Now, most of them are explainable. Even Darren Waller, they've brought in Devontae Adams. It's bound to happen. The targets are going to be taken away. There's injury concerns. There's QB uncertainty for some of these, or new situations for these guys. I'm surprised Metcalf isn't down further. Metcalf's only down half a position. He's practically stagnant in both.
I think it's because they see him being the volume guy, which I kind of get. I kind of get it. I don't think I would be in that far with him, but
also there was talk about them looking at potential trades for Lockett and things like that. So maybe that's on the hope that may come through. In which case you've got a buy there, but if they're both in the field, they're going to be similar again. So,
especially as Lockett, he had that relationship with Russell Wilson that was so tight that he was Russell Wilson's sort of guy in the
Mhm.
clutch situation so often. And we can expect people to probably fade Lockett now because that relationship is no longer there. And
Yeah.
it's a new guy, new opportunity. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Murph, I'm going
No
to show you
one's
some
got
of
the
these
guess.
answers just
Yeah, I
quickly. Yeah, I'm
know.
just going to give some people an idea of what's coming up. So we've got Tannehill, Gabriel Davis, nope. Seattle, don't know what that was about. Rashad White, Jerry Judy, Greg the Leg, interesting choice. Elijah Mitchell, too high in the draft. Cam Brait is a really good guess, I actually think, with the Gronk
Yeah.
news. Alec Pierce, Juju's been mentioned a few times. Kareem Hunt, and someone says Ingram, for both up and down. But
So
all
I
of them,
think
sadly, wrong.
they are all wrong. So no one's got it yet. I will say this. There was some good thinking outside the box there with a few people.
There
I would say
was.
continue to think outside the box, especially with the faller. Think outside the box. There was definitely one answer that I felt was. I'm not going to give a clue as
Banging
to
on
what
the
it
door.
was. I think
Yeah.
it was definitely sort of banging on the door there. That was well outside the box. That kind of made some sense, and was close. I would say with the risers, I wouldn't say any of these are particularly knocking on the door. I would say just keep going with the risers. I think just think about players who have moved into a different situation than they were in last year. So, and you can interpret that however you want with either player, but they're risers
Taysom
because
Hill gone from QB to tight end, must have fallen.
but they're in different situations than they were in for different reasons. So give that some thought. That's why they're rising. I think both their ADPs are higher than they were last year. I think that's probably a fair.
They probably should be as well. To be fair.
And probably should be. I would say this one here. It's not right, but you're kind of now. That's the first answer for risers. I would say is in the realm. Just giving a little tease.
Cool. And poor
Right.
Michael Garmston, who's listening, has had every guess under the sun. Still going.
We're
Come
trying
on,
to help
Michael.
out. We're trying to help out here.
Michael.
We're gonna go do my favorite answer of the night. By the way, thanks very much.
I've just switched them off.
I love that. So let's talk about rounds 5 through 8 quickly. I'm going to be blitzing through this, I think, because I spend more time at the top of the board, which is important. I think it's more important to spend time at the top of the board. They're your safer picks. There's a lot more movement in this range, so we're looking at these are the sorts of players in round.
So this is go get your guy range now. You've set your bulk of your roster, and you're now looking at building how you want it to be. So this is go get your guy time. So you'd expect to see a little bit of a variance in these, right?
Yeah. And so the biggest riser, someone actually put this guess in the chat for the biggest riser in rounds 9 through 12. And actually, it's a really good guess because he has risen to the rounds 5 through 8 as a result, which is Rashad Bateman. He's jumped up 2/3 of a round. So, Michael's gone if you don't buy a raffle ticket. 100%. There's no limit on the guessing. Keep guessing. No one's got it yet. Rashad Bateman is a huge riser. He's gone up 2/3 of a round, and it's understandable with the trade. And people are buying in now. People buying in on Rashad Bateman, and I get it. I think he's good value even now at 83, 84. So you talk about 72, 84. So you're talking about around back end of round 7, sort of the 7-8 turn. I still think that's not bad range for him. Brandon Cooks, people buying in at last. This is the first year I'm going to see Brandon Cooks ADP like touching. He's in the 6th round. He's been criminally undervalued for so many years. 8th round.
Yeah.
I draft so much Brandon Cooks every year in the 8th round. It's almost like it's a punchline because he's always criminally undervalued. Darnell Mooney's another one criminally undervalued at 74.6. Who else is getting the ball there other than Cole Kmet? It could be anyone else. Like criminally undervalued. So people are correcting these quite a bit here.
Mike Williams with a huge jump there.
Mike Williams is bizarre. His ADP is probably the most like a heartbeat. It just goes up and down, up and down. Look, he's in redraft Superflex. He's gone up over a round.
Yeah,
it's balmy. His ADP in redraft is not far off what it is in 1QB. In Superflex, is not far off what it is in 1QB. Pittman as well. They're 10 picks is crazy. I get why Pittman is going up. I mean, again, play was over. You love Pittman, so
I do. Yeah, but
I
he's had
can
a
see why.
situation change. He hasn't, obviously, but he's brought in a QB with the aim of throwing him the ball.
Yeah,
And brought in no competition for his targets either. Alec Pierce could potentially be great, but he's not going to be a wide receiver one on that roster.
yeah, absolutely. So you're looking at these players. Cortland Sutton, I think people are fading Jerry Jeudy. Let's see if I'm. So people are fading Jerry Jeudy to the point that Jeudy and Sutton are very, very close in ADP now.
Sutton should be ahead of Judy.
Sutton's at 54. Jeudy is at 53. So they're almost back to back now.
Yeah.
And I think that reverse will happen. Or it'll be very close to. Tom Brady.
It's very similar to Ayak and Debo last year, right? Ayak came into the year, Debo off his injury, and they gradually leveled out. It seems, especially with the injury from Cortland Sutton, it feels a very similar situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Brady has been criminally undervalued all offseason.
Yeah.
Again, he's going up a third of a round. I expect that to continue to rise. Etienne, I now expect this ADP to go stratospheric. He's gone up 4 spots to, he's on the turn. He's on the 4-5 turn. I expect him to probably move up nearer to round 3 because the injury concern, but now it's starting to come out that he's likely to play some part in the prison. So I think you'll see that sky high soon. Devonta Smith, so people buying the cheaper wide receiver in Philly. So his is correlating almost directly to AJ Brown's fall, which makes sense for me. I would buy the cheaper of those 2 receivers. Cordell Patterson, people realizing that there isn't anyone else in Atlanta. Gabe Davis is a guy I love. I get that 100%. So it's interesting to see some of these risers. Fallers, the big one here is Garrett Wilson. And I put this in the 5-yard chat earlier. And I think this is realization of dynasty players perhaps getting a little overexcited and playing dynasty mode too much. And now we're looking at redraft and it's correcting back. I don't think I'm touching Garrett Wilson at any of these ADPs.
Nope.
I just don't think it's enough for me to want.
Most of the rookies are down. Olave's down as well. Garrett Wilson's down. Traylon Burks is down. And I do think that is that shift from dynasty mind into redraft mind, as you say. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think there's a few people that are really kicking in now. So, and I think you're going to see this across the boards. Burks has fallen considerably as well. These guys are getting very close to that. That's the round 9 through 12 range, which is why I think I feel more comfortable taking these rookie wide receivers. I don't think there's anyone here. The Godwin one,
the one I was after, the one I mentioned earlier, is Damian Harris.
Yeah, so Damian Harris is falling, which I think is baffling. I'm with you. Running back 26, he's going outside the top 24. I think he's due some touchdown regression, and I put that in the chat and in the book and think I get it, but I still think he's
still a safe floor play at that round.
I agree with you. I think he is someone who is well worth his value. This one, by the way, Chris Godwin, this is about to go catastrophically high. Because I've been saying all along on this show that I did not believe he was going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. It looks like he's in contention to maybe play week 1. I doubt he plays week 1. I've always said I don't think he'll play week 1, but if he's back by week 2, week 3, the cost you're getting him now in the 6th round or 5th round is nuts, and he's falling to almost the back end of the 5th round. I'm buying Chris Godwin all day long. You can get, and it's now getting to, and we don't talk about stacking in redraft too often, but I think all those Bucks players at cost are a value. I think Fournette is a huge value. I think Brady's a huge value, and I think Chris Godwin's a huge value. And I think you can build that Bucks stack with a huge value. You're not having to reach for those guys. They're falling. Tom Brady's risen in drafts, but he's still too low. But those guys are
on the clock in the JTT Cup. So I'm about to add a Buck stack. I've just gone on the clock in the JTT stack. So I'm about to add a Buck stack.
How funny. So have I.
Evans is gone. I took Brady, and I was hoping on my next turn at the one I wanted to take Evans and Fournette and really hammer that home. But
mate,
Evans is gone.
I'm taking your mate, by the way, now.
Not Jerry Judy. Don't do it.
No. I'm taking someone you love. We just talked about how much you love him.
Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman's joined the team.
You will not be disappointed, sir.
No. He's paired up with Deontay Johnson. They're my 1-2 combo.
Nice.
I've got 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks in my JTT draft so far, so I'm quite happy with that. The 6th round. Anyway,
we digress.
Yeah, all the rookies have fallen here. Kareem Hunt, potential cut risk here. So that's pretty much all there is here. Feeling flat. I think he for me is a huge value. Drake London is outside of Breece Hall, the only rookie that's kind of risen up. Although Drake London is barely raised. But he tends to trend. He's bucking that trend of wide receivers who are falling, which is interesting. So,
I just got back to the notes, and poor Michael's been going and going and going again. He's that bad. He's exhausted now. But
it's no one.
We do not have a right answer yet. No, we've got. Let me give you an idea. We've got Cole Kmet, Amon Ra Brown, Baker Mayfield, James Cook.
The fact that people are still tuning in and listening, I hope they're finding the
James
stuff useful.
Prosh.
I'm going to check the Twitter because I know some people are writing maybe guesses.
Rogers. Remember, guys, this is riser and faller from rounds 9 to 12. So if we mention the player, they're not there already. This is the latter rounds which you're going to get onto.
Absolutely.
There's 2 players that are rising. Should we give away our position on the risers?
So, yeah, because I tell you what, this has hit the crossbar.
Almost.
On the risers.
Smidge.
Really close. So I think you kind of, this for me is like thinking risers. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes.
Oh, Michael's on Jamal Way now.
So this is for risers. That's the crossbar for risers. Fallers. I'm going to go back to the one. Comment. I am going to go back to the other comment because I'm desperate to give these spots away. People have been listening and guessing away, and this is why ADP is so much fun. This one, Gary Thorpe. That's your crossbar bet for faller.
That is
remember,
post ding right there.
Rounds 9 through 12. That's the key here. Rounds 9 through 12. So MVS is your crossbar bet for risers. Greg Zerline is your crossbar bet for fallers. So if you're listening in the chat and you're still with us and you're still guessing away, 2 Warrior Bowl spots. Think of players who you are. Mr. Scabbers must have missed a start.
Yes.
Is this for something?
You missed the 5 minutes at the start.
2 Warrior Bowl spots, 1 for each correct answer.
Correct.
And there's 2 risers. So you got a 2 in however many chance of getting those. There's 2 with the exactly same ADP. We'll take the correct answer for either. In fact, at this stage, because we're getting
potentially the number 1 at his position on his roster, right?
One is potentially the number 1. The number 1 at his roster. Number 1, but he's definitely the one. He's definitely the one on his team. One is definitely the one on his team. The other one,
Landry's a good shout, but wrong.
Yeah, a bit too late, but it's definitely been a shout. I'd say they're both ones on their team.
Yeah, they probably are.
They're both the number 1 player on their team
at their position.
At their position.
Yeah,
100% they are.
Devontae Parker again, decent shout, not quite right. We're getting Danny, closer now.
Danny, 100% spot on, but I did say I'm not counting Deshaun Watson because that was too obvious. So him and Gronk were the 2 that were the big fallers. But yeah, we said we're not counting those 2. Danny, you must have missed the bit where I said there that Greg Zerline was the crossbar pick for rounds 9 through 12. So think along the lines of Greg Zerline. And for the risers, MVS. So again, both number 1 on their team. Both number 1 on their team at their position.
Russell Gage, again, right idea. Not another 1.
Yeah, he's not the one on his team, but he's someone that I think is risen. I'm just trying to. We're going to fill for time until hopefully someone gets these answers. Yes, finally. Yes.
He means Kirk Cousins.
He doesn't at all.
Please don't tell me you mean Kirk Cousins.
Right. Do me a favor. Drop me a DM on Twitter and make sure I've got all the correct details to forward to the Warrior Bowl guys. Oh, do you know what's funny? Is he's just I'm not going to say it actually, but yeah, it's quite funny actually what's happened in the chat.
Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk is one of them. There is another one.
There is, and it's still a faller we're after.
And there is a faller. So whoever gets the faller.
Should we just repost a little clue for the faller?
Yeah. So we talked about. I'm not going to scroll up through the chat. I tell you what. If we don't get
a faller,
if we don't get the faller in the next minute, we have someone who can claim the other spot.
Here's your clue. Faller, ADP, rounds 9 to 12.
We're going to give it 1 minute. So we're about 20 seconds in to that. So, yeah. If not, I have the other spot that we can give away because the other rise has been picked.
It has. Well done.
It has been picked, and it was actually picked by Mr. Borman Slips and Fantasy Football, who just got Kirk, but then someone else also got it. Oh no, not seeing it.
Read the clues, guys.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not giving any more clues. We've gone pretty far. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nah, not gonna get it. Right.
Out.
Wrong one. Glass Lazard was the other riser. Gary, congratulations. You've got the other Warrior Bowl spot. Jump me a DM on Twitter and get all your details and make sure I get that over to you. Those of you that missed out, thanks very much for playing. There is still 3 spots to give away. I'm going to take
keep guessing. Oh, look. Right behind. No, it's Gary.
Oh, it's Gary. Oh,
well, Gary's rightly won his place as well. Well done, Gary.
Well done, Gary. Gary's there. That's it. That's the fall. It's Justin Tucker. Oh, Gary says he's already got a spot. He says give it to Michael. Do you know what? With the amount of guesses that Michael's had, I'm okay with that as well. So, Michael, get in touch via the DMs. Gary has kindly won you a spot in the Warrior Bowl.
Michael weren't here, to be
fair, Michael. He was nowhere near any of the guesses, but
Gary, if you don't Michael, you don't know Gary, please meet each other.
Yeah, definitely go and have a beer. If you're going to the UKFFC, then try and have a beer with each other. And if you're not, definitely go next year and chat. There you go. See, look, we've made,
for those of you that missed out,
friendships.
Just quickly, UKFFC will have the last 2 spots available in our raffle. I know Murf's got a couple more spots we're going to give away during the week.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out on those on the Twitter. But we will have 2 more spots, the last 2 spots to give away as well.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, for the 3 there's 3 spots we've still got to give away. So we're going to tell you now how you can win those. And this is for those listening to the podcast as well. If you listen to the audio and you're sort of just going, what is all this about? Watch the video. You would have had fun. And I do recommend you watch the video because obviously the date is up on the screen. If you are watching if you're listening to this on audio or if you catch up or whatever it might be, the 3 spots, when this episode comes out on the podcast version, which will hopefully be tomorrow, we will just put the instructions on there. What we want you to do is follow the guys at Warrior Bowl, pretty straightforward. Follow us at 5 Yard Rush, again, pretty straightforward. And I want you to put the hashtag Ultimate Warrior in the replies with the best Ultimate Warrior GIF.
Easy.
So hashtag Ultimate Warrior in the replies to that tweet and with a Warrior Bowl, Ultimate Warrior GIF. That's all you got to do. And we will select 3 winners on Friday. And make sure you check your DMs on Friday. And we will make sure you get a spot. We'll give them away Friday. And then Daniel giving away the last 2 Warrior Bowl spots at the UKFFC on Saturday in the raffle.
Yeah.
Someone's just asked, can I make your own
FFC?
Can you make your own GIF? Absolutely. If you want to make your own Warrior Bowl gifts, absolutely. In fact, we encourage it. The more silliness, the better. Absolutely, we're all about fun and frolics in this show.
No
Love
idea
it.
how to do that. But yeah,
it's quite easy on iPhone. You can record yourself and then turn it into a GIF if it's short enough. Cool. So rounds 9 through
let's
12.
look at the 9 to 12 data then, shall we? Yeah.
Yeah. So 9 to 12.
Everyone's here for.
This is where things do go wild. So funny enough, actually, Robert Woods is a bit of a faller at the moment, which I think is fascinating in its own right. So these are the biggest risers: Christian Kirk, Alan Lazard. The other one is crazy, Sky Moore.
Every other rookie we mentioned is down.
Yeah,
we said Olave, Burks, Wilson, all on the fall, and Sky Moore's up around nearly.
It's gone up nearly around. The hype on Sky Moore, he is like catching fire at the moment. He's going to break 100 in ADP, which at that point is just absolute nuts. Jarvis Landry, we talked about. You've talked about how much a value Jarvis Landry is. He's gone up. He's gone up 3/4 of a round. I still think his ADP is probably a bit low.
Yeah, me too.
Alexander Mattison is climbing, and maybe that's.
But that makes sense with Dalvin Cook falling.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd is rising. Melvin Gordon, obviously, he'd been signed at some point this month, so yeah, he's gone up half a round.
Great. People listen to us.
Zach Ertz, Christian Watson. Again, I think he's a value for me, Christian Watson. I think I'd rather have Christian Watson.
That increase is nowhere near Sky Moore's and nowhere near the decrease of the others, and he was so low behind him anyway. He's just kind of evening out a little bit. So his position is not that much different to Sky Moore's.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really not. In fact, Christian Watson's for me is much better. He's got better draft capital. He was drafted higher up the board, more investment, and I think he's got a clear path to be number one. Which I don't think I can say that about Sky Moore. Cole Kmet, when I keep talking about, he's gone up 3 spots, and I think he needs to keep rising for me. Well, I don't. I keep him where he is. I'll take him on every single team. Rashad Penny, don't get this at all. I don't get why people are buying Rashad Penny. Looking at fallers. You see a big drop here.
Up as much as I thought.
I'm really happy to see this. Like he can stay in that range.
Wide receiver 53.
Yeah, that's where he was in start.
That's barely flexible. Even if you're starting 3 wide receivers, barely flexible.
I mean that's where he was start of June, and he's probably maybe up or down 1 in that range. So, I think it's phenomenal value there. Michael Gallup falling, probably a little bit to do with his injury. I think he's a real value if you can start, because you're getting him at wide receiver. You're getting him at wide receiver 49.
Yeah.
So you're getting him in wide receiver 4 range.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to outperform that. Tyler Algier
Woods falling. I'm surprised that
falling, which I think is mad that he's falling. I think the hype on Albert O is probably burst. Mike Gesicki. This one's mental for me. I don't understand why Jacoby Myers is falling. I think he's a huge value. Rashad White, people realize he's not going to be the guy. Jameson Williams is injury related. Robert Woods, I don't get.
No.
Justin Fields, yeah, fair enough, because he's got nothing to throw to. And Michael Carter, again, that correlates with the rise that we've seen with Breece Hall. Hunter Henry, Kirk. I mean, these sorts of players. Everyone's hyped on Isaiah Spiller. Everyone's hyped on him, and all you're seeing in the last week or two about go draft Isaiah Spiller, go draft Isaiah Spiller. No one's listening.
No,
he's falling. He's falling quite considerably. By the way, Justin Tucker hasn't dropped 158 spots in Superflex. He just didn't have an ADP. He wasn't getting drafted in Superflex.
Right, decided to kick off.
A lot of Superflex leagues don't have kickers, so he just wasn't. They weren't. Probably didn't have enough ADP to give a definitive answer there. We know about these two, which is why we disqualified them. Yep. Tyler Higbee's really falling. George Pickens falling, James Robinson falling, Noah Fant falling. All these sorts of players, I can kind of half get it. Not Kirk Cousins for me. I think they pass the ball a lot more next year. Yeah. So I'm not sure I'm buying that fall at QB 16, QB 17 range. I'm pretty comfy taking him there easily, I think, in fact, if I was taking a second QB. But I talk about in the book about if you're taking a big QB and it's a really late buy, like 10, 11 onwards, you don't need to draft a second QB. It's pointless.
No. Yeah.
But yeah, Spiller, I'm just not convinced he's going to do much this year. Kenny Golladay, I think we can half understand. Well, I think he's at the point now where he's probably the one on that team.
He's probably draftable again now at that price.
At that price, I think he probably is. He probably.
Yeah. Why not? Someone.
Point,
yeah.
Yeah, you're
They
talking
paid him too much not to use him.
132. So you're talking 12th round now.
Yeah. So he's going to be wide receiver 5 on your pick as you go through on the standard kind of field.
Yeah, he's going at 54. I think he's in. Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, he's at the point there where I'm actually quite happy to take a.
I'll take an upside flexible pick. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, fan. I think that's ridiculous that he's that low. Personally, I think they're going to throw the ball, but who knows? Higbee, I think it's mental that he's falling, but there you go. But it is what it is. Pickens, I don't think he's going to get the ball much, and I think people again, this is rookie hype, and it's correct.
I'd be interested to see next year how that changes if Claypool don't stay there. But for now, I understand 100%. That.
So I think again, you're going to see the wilder swings in ADP in this range. Again, I think this correlates the story that you're not going to see big swings in ADP in this range. You're going to see a few, but not many. A lot of it's going to remain pretty static, which means when you're preparing for drafts for the rest of the summer, barring an injury or barring a significant event happening, you can take this ADP pretty much to the bank in most leagues, and it's going to remain pretty static. Yep. There's going to be some movement, especially in sort of those later rounds 7 and 8. You're going to get some of these wide receivers start to pop up where people are really wanting to plump on the value. And I think there's some good value to be had on a lot of these players. But as a result, this is where rookies have been overly drafted too high. This happens every single year, by the way. That if you're drafting in June and you're taking a load of rookies in redraft, they're going to go down in price. It's just what happens.
I play a lot of DFS best ball that time of year because there's so much value. There's so much value about.
You get so much more value because people are plumping for the rookies, and then people start to get a bit wise there. And then rounds 9 through 12 is where you get some really crazy swings.
Again, as you said, it's go get your guy time, right? So I'm not surprised to see a round difference in that, especially someone on a turn who's not going to get it come back. Go get your guy. I can understand that all day long.
And especially at wide receiver 51, 52 cost is where it was at the start of the month. I mean, they're going much higher now, but these guys you're talking about 2 wide receiver 1s on their team potentially. Jarvis Landry easily going to be in competition to get a lot of targets. Melvin Gordon's just got a new deal. These sorts of players do make a lot of sense to Tyler Boyd's ADP for what he will bring. He's easily returning over wide receiver 55 numbers. He's a 3-4 fringe. So you've got a lot of guys in here that you can gamble on to do well. And if they don't, then it doesn't matter. You'll cut them. These are all pretty much cuttable guys. I mean, we're talking round 9 here. So if you look at the ADP, you're talking about pick 97. That's where we're talking about here. These guys, probably this round matters, I would say. Round 9. Once you're in the double digits, I'm quite happy to take flyers on almost anyone. So some interesting stuff, I think, in this data. And we'll continue. We'll probably do another show like this in a month or two's time.
Very good. Right before we start.
See how it. And I track this data all the time. I'll make this data public as well. I'll share it out so people can look at it. Yeah, that's wide receiver 55. So I think there's quite a bit of what's going on. Great point here about don't trust evaluators in KC. They haven't hit that many wide receivers. I love this, by the way. Beer coming your way, Gary. It's a good chat. I enjoyed tonight's show. I think it's been a lot of fun. Oh, lost you, Dan. You still there?
I'm still here. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Wife was watching it.
Oh, Michael said, ironically, been trying to stack Kirk with Lawrence and ETN and JTT Cup and just been sniped.
Oh, I've been sniped by fellow Bronco.
Oh, it's outrageous. Have a word. I think the thing I would say with all of these things is just these trends are really important just to keep an eye on. Because if you're working on old data or you're making these assumptions, if you did a mock draft at the start of June and went, right, I've got my head ready for redraft now. I'm used to these are where the players are going to go. As you can see, it changes. It changes quite considerably. Like Dalvin Cook is not one that people have been going, oh, wow, he's a real faller. And like for me, moving 3 spots down in the 3rd round is effectively the same as going up.
It was last year though, right? With CMC, Saquon, and Zeke, and then last year they moved down to the 5 and 6 sort of spot, which is massive from 2 to 5. 2 to 6 is a huge differential.
Yeah, and that is huge. You're exactly right. That is a monumental slide that you don't see very often. And I think this is why this data is important. So I'm going to publish it. I'm going to publish it exactly as you've seen it. You can play with the filters. So have a play. Look at the filter. This is all from Sleeper. This is Sleeper's ADP. It's publicly available. I'm not done anything proprietary always going to get us in any trouble at all. It's publicly available. All I've done is just add some filters and just done a comparison on the 2 month. On the month. So yeah, we'll make this available to everybody so you can see it. But I guess just a brief reminder on from you about what's going on Saturday. Big day Saturday.
Yeah, UK FFC. If you're not coming, there are literally a handful of tickets left at _UK FFC is the place to go. The link's all on there for tickets.
How many's a handful? We're talking what, 5, 6?
I think we're 8 or 9 available. We're in single digits.
8 or 9.
Yep, available tickets left.
Right, come on, let's sell out.
That would be so great, wouldn't it? It would be so good to sell out. I mean, we're amazed at where we've got to. We've got panels being announced. We've got stalls there selling and promoting themselves. Murf and 5 Yard obviously are a part of both of those. We've got a charity raffle ongoing. It says Warrior Bowl prizes. We've got Bob Lung's book. I've put a couple of them in myself. We've got hoodies and t-shirts and DLF subscriptions and IDP guys subscriptions and all that lot available in the raffle. And we've also got a charity auction coming where people have been kind enough, crazily kind enough. It's overwhelming. We have been gifted a signed Irvin Smith Vikings jersey, a signed Calvin Ridley Falcons jersey, a signed Joey Bosa Chargers jersey, and a signed Dan Marino Miami Dolphins helmet. Which we're going to auction all of those off one by one during the day. We've got a Tyler Heineke helmet going in the raffle to win, signed.
And do you know what's special about this? Look at the team.
It's a Washington football team that no longer exists.
No longer existed for 2 years.
One special. Was it 2 or 1?
No, 2 years the football team lasted.
Okay.
So this will be worth something.
Limited edition, so yeah.
It will be. So even though it's Tyler Heineke, he played quite a lot of games last season. So again, and it's a flash alternative helmet as well. So it's
nice.
Well,
that'd be a raffle prize.
So that's in
raffle
there.
tickets are $5. You could win that for a $5.
Absolutely.
Not a bad day out,
so yeah, get involved. Join in the fun.
Sports Bar and Grill, 12 till 5 on Saturday. Wear some shorts. It's going to be warm.
It is going to be hot. 34.
Come get your last few tickets, guys. Yeah, please.
Absolutely. While you're there, buy a copy of the Fantasy Football Playbook. That is going to be on sale at a special event price. That'll be cheaper than it is on Amazon. And you can walk away, and I'll even sign it for you as well. I'll bring my best pen if you want it, and I won't be offended if you say, no, I don't want you to sign it. But I'm happy to sign anything. Of course I will. And then thank you very much. Much appreciated.
You've already won your place. You don't have to suck up anymore.
You don't have to suck up. You can buy the playbook. It is on Amazon. It is available. It was on discount. I'm not sure if it's still on discount. But we also sell it through the store as well if you don't want to reach for the price of the printed copy, and I understand that. It is available in the shop for $9.99. That gets you the digital version as well, so you can take advantage of that one there as well. And if anybody buys books, if you're listening to this and you've bought the book, and I don't know that you've bought the book, you need to tell me. You need to show me a copy of the receipt or copy of the book and share it with me, and I will enter you into a very special tournament I'm doing for all book buyers. There's going to be signed merchandise. I want to get it set up in the next sort of 10 days or so. Once a couple of these charity drafts are out the way, I'm going to do prior signed merch. So the signed merch is going to be signed Deontay Johnson jersey, signed CJ Mosley jersey. They are confirmed, and there will be other bits of merch in there as well as prizes. I'm going to try and do some form of, probably can't stretch to a belt, but maybe do something like a ring or something, or a cup or a trophy. We'll do something.
Some form of recognition.
Yes. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be multi-league. It's going to condense down to one league. So still playing with the format a little bit, but it's going to be a bit challenging, but a lot of fun. So do try that out. Do buy the book. Chance to win a really place in a really cool league with some cool prizes. And there's no entry fee because the entry fee is covered by you buying the book. So
Awesome.
Doesn't matter if you bought the digital or the Amazon.
Fair.
Oh, and please write a review for the book on Amazon. We'd really appreciate that. That'll just help it rise in the charts even further. We're trying to get it up to be a 3-time bestseller. But
Cool.
I don't think it's going to happen this year because of the fact that I think what's happened is that someone's released an FPL diary that helps FPL players. Well, it helps FPL, and unfortunately they've categorized it as American football. So lots of
how inconsiderate.
Little buggers. So yeah.
So you're getting buy the book. Keep an eye out for the tweet, Murf. Was it Ultimate Warrior hashtag?
Yeah, someone's already done it.
Your favorite Ultimate Warrior GIF, whether that be your own or one that's readily available. 3 spots for Warrior Bowl left to go, and they will be announced Friday.
So you've got until Thursday night to enter.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this on podcast, you've got until midnight, even if it's early morning Friday, like early hours
You've
Friday.
Got till Murf wakes up, and trust me, Murf wakes up early with his little ones.
Really early. Well, you probably got a couple of hours after that. I would say I'm not going to look at it past like 9 o'clock on Friday morning. So for those in America, you will have the night as well. So I'll be asleep. And basically when I look at it Friday morning, I'm not going to put a cutoff time. It will be Friday morning. I look at it and I will do it. So if I see it and it's entered by then, but I would say for your own safety, get it done by Thursday night, just so you know it's in. Don't try and beat me in the morning because like Dan says, I'm up early, and if I start work a little bit earlier, then you might not get time to look at it. So
Awesome.
really appreciate you all. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for joining in the guessing games. I know it's tough. It was tough on purpose because the prize is awesome, and I wasn't going to just put something out there like I don't know what's my favorite color or who's my favorite team. Like it doesn't warrant the prize. I wanted it to be a bit of a discussion. I'm glad it lost as long as it did as well because it kept the chat going. It kept people watching.
Well done,
and if you're watching,
well done, Gary, and in turn, I guess well done, Michael.
And well done, Michael. And they're already making a friendship. So that's what it's all about. Thanks very much. Anything else you want to say, Dan, before we sign off?
Done, sir. Over to you.
Cool. So thanks for joining. This is the first time you've ever listened to us. Appreciate it. Hope to see you back next week. We're going to have a great guest next week. We're going to kick off our positional series. We're going to look at each position of redraft. Got a great guest, just finalizing the details of who it is. It's someone who is I guess he's my boss. At Fantasy Pros, which is finalizing that. So fingers crossed that is, we're just finalizing it. So hopefully that will be done for next week. But we've got some great guests lining up over the next few weeks. We're going to bring an expert in and just break down each position in redraft, and let's get our pencils sharpened. Let's enjoy the redraft season, enjoy our Christmas day in fantasy football, and don't forget, as always, keep rushing.